Hello and welcome to Queer Abbey, a weekly chat show that's recorded, that's produced, and that's performed by yours truly. Willkommen to the 27th episode of Queer Abbey. I appreciate you all tuning in and for being here each Sunday or whenever you listen to this show. It is just after Thanksgiving when I'm recording this episode, and I made some yummy goddamn food the other day. I baked pumpkin pie. I have a lovely pumpkin pie recipe. I always got to make the crust from scratch. Use half butter, half shortening, and make this gorgeous flaky crust. So anyway, I had pumpkin pie, cornbread, just from a box mix, the kind of like sweet kind, which is a little sacrilegious, but I like to eat it like it's a dessert. I made chicken breast instead of turkey because I am poor and a single person, and green bean casserole and mashed potatoes, and it was very tasty. Green bean casserole, highly rated Thanksgiving food. You can put a little bit of Parmesan in there, just a little, and maybe a little bit on top, right over your crispy onions, and it forms this delicious gooey crispiness. And oh my god, I literally nut over green bean casserole. So I had a lovely meal, and then the next day I took all that chicken breast that I made and I turned it into chicken Alfredo. So I've been eating good this week. I'm thankful for yummy food in my lovely little apartment where I get to cook myself meals. Look, I put in so much work to get to this physical place, like to get this apartment. I've worked my goddamn job consistently for years. I moved everything here and got a U-Haul and planned it all out. And I don't know, it just sometimes it feels good to take stock and look around and go, look at all of this that I did for myself. This is amazing. Some of the things that I use every day I've had for such a long time. I'm getting to that age where like some of my possessions are more than 10 years old because I'm like 24, and I'm like, damn, I've had this since I was like a young teenager. That means that, yeah, like my dresser, I've had that since childhood. It's actually was my mom's. So like, yeah, I've done a good job of taking care of my things and avoiding disaster, I guess, as much as possible. And putting up curtains and stuff like that makes me feel like I get to revel in all of that. Speaking of which, I put up curtains as well this week. That was like a very adult task. I got these sort of cute celestial themed curtains, and it matches all the rest of my decor. I didn't purchase everything all at once or like plan everything out, but the way that my like home decoration has taken shape, everything's sort of like whimsigoth, like wizard themed, I guess. There's a lot of jewel tones and like stars and celestial imagery. I have little like stuffed pumpkins and silver star curtains. My bed frame is like this like green tufted sort of thing. So there's all these jewel tones and stuff. I love it in here. I feel so cozy, and it's like so mystical and Wilson-y. So yay. Being grateful for those things. Although the origin of Thanksgiving is a stupid nightmare, let's be honest. I think that we should touch on that just briefly, because settlers came to America and did not like make peace with the native people here. We brought disease, and then we straight up just took their land through like deception, basically. And that's not cool. It's not something that we need to glorify. Yeah, indigenous people were fairly receptive to the political dissidents that came here, my ancestors, and in return, we systemically overturned all of their land from them over the course of like 100+ years, and yeah, completely decimated the culture. We made it illegal to speak indigenous languages. In the Portland area, I think one of the more prominent indigenous languages is Chinakwawa, and like at the boarding schools that they would round up these native children and send them to these schools, it was illegal to speak those languages, and they would beat them if they expressed any semblance of their culture. So like, we need to have solidarity with that. I mean, our country is formed on the basis of violence and of taking things from people. And here's another angle. Our ancestors are traumatized people that inflicted more trauma on the people that they interacted with. right? I mean, the settler colonialism that turns into manifest destiny, the reason that we have America as it is today, is a result of people hating each other in Europe and literally sailing across the sea to escape. You know, it doesn't come from this just inherent sense of evil. You know, white people, I mean, the word white, I mean, it just, the concept of being white was almost invented in order to unify people who look white in order to give them privilege, if that makes sense. Like, individually, we are all specific things. Like, I'm Welsh and English or whatever, but like, I identify and am identified as white because that was an intentional thing that was done. Yeah, coining of the term whiteness to unify people in their privilege. So that way, anybody who isn't quote unquote white can be denied privilege. It's not even a real thing. Like, white literally is just an umbrella term for like what people kind of resemble. It's not specific. It doesn't refer to lineage. And not that we need to care so much about that, but like, yeah. What even is white? You know, it's just a concept of purity, the lack of culture. Because that's what it is. It's like people resigned their former identities as like a Scottish descendant or an Irish person, and they said, okay, we're here in America, we are afforded the privilege of land, and now I am white. I am part of the group that is a landowner. And this trickles down for years and years and years. I mean, Black people and indigenous people weren't even eligible for the GI Bill after World War II. That's one of the huge economic booms that allowed white people to move into the suburbs and own houses. And that's the reason why your grandparents have money and they own a business. All of that plays into this systemic racism. So America is formed on theft and deception, and it's kind of no different today. I mean, what is the government doing today? Oh, God. I hate Elon Musk. Okay, anyway, moving on to nicer things. At least I like the food that we make on Thanksgiving. Food is important to humanity, you know? Being white is sort of fake, but food, that's the real stuff. I think that since the beginning of time, people have like gathered around and broken bread together. There's something really symbolic about nourishing ourselves around a table together, because it really represents like the connection between us, how we all need the same things to survive, how we can all help each other to achieve those things. And I think the message of that gets really muddled by capitalism, racism, and our weird culture that we live in. Yeah. So I have a confession to make. I don't have a musical spotlight for you this week. I have been focused on my studies and other things, and I could not line anything up in time. So I didn't want to do anything like desperate or illegal, and I decided I would just take a little break this week, and I will be back next week with an awesome musical spotlight. I've reached out to a couple of people that I've become aware of, and so I think that we'll be good after this, but I just need a little break because we're having a little desert of musical spotlights. So if you are interested in having your music featured, please don't feel afraid. Just reach out to me and I'd probably be happy to put it on this show. The same goes for advice prompts. I do have enough of those at the moment, so we'll be doing our advice segment, of course. But I'm always happy to take more. So if you wanted to send an anonymous submission or a text or an email, feel free to do so. And I will probably get to that within a couple of weeks. So yay! Queer Abbey. I've been thinking quite a bit about the future recently. I mean, not just because of this election and like the terrible chaos that is brewing in the US government, but also more positive personal things like what I might try to do for a career to survive after I get done with school. I have 2 more quarters of school left, or just a few months basically, until I graduate with a degree in audio engineering. And that's exciting for me. That's something good that I can focus on, because despite whatever is going on around me, I can choose to focus on the things that make me happy in a constructive way, you know? I don't necessarily need to shut everything out and ignore the world and be selfish and a freak, because that's like what Republicans do. But it's important to heal yourself before you go and heal others, you know? It's all too easy to keep our empathy aimed outward and not inward. But true empathy, I think, is a relationship between and a balance between taking care of yourself and taking care of others. If you know how to love yourself, then I think you'd be really fantastic at learning how to direct that love towards other people as well. It's kind of when the opposite takes place that it's tough to live with, when you give all of your love away and you don't know how to be nice to yourself or appreciate yourself. Like, it's okay. I still feel weird about it. It's something I'm working on, but like, I'm proud of myself for having this apartment. It feels gross somehow for me to say that out loud, but like, bitch, I'm allowed to have a place to live. Of course I am. And I'm allowed to be proud of working hard, and I'm allowed to be proud. And we shouldn't let people take our pride away. Not the good kind of pride, anyway. There's these little tiny birds. I don't know what they're called, but they're just like above my window. There's like a tree that's right outside. And since I removed the ugly white blinds and I put curtains in that slide sideways and open, I can see a little further up into this tree. And I didn't realize there's all these sweet little birds. I love a bird. I think they might be starlings or some other type of like little tiny little guy. They make cute little sounds. Anyway, that's fierce. Okay, last little piece for my personal check-in segment before we start moving on to some advice. So I watched some good movies the other night while I was cooking on Thanksgiving. Upon the recommendation of this person that was on, oh God, The Bald and the Beautiful, the show with Trixie and Katya. Katya was interviewing somebody who's like a movie critic, and I'm sorry, I cannot be bothered to go look. Oh my God, okay, I'll look up their name. In real time, like I'm literally just looking at my Spotify right now. They were Gretchen Felker Martin. See, that's why I couldn't remember it. Felker Martin, girl. Gretchen Felker Martin is this like person who does movie reviews, and they gave their top 10 horror movies for 2024, and I watched several of them, namely this film called Red Rooms. It is in French, so beware if you're not into reading subtitles. But, oh my God, that movie was fucking wild. It's about this, like, murder trial that's going on, and it sort of explores people's morbid curiosity about murder. Because you know how everybody's listening to Bailey Sarian and True Crime. Oh, bitch. True Crime. I have problems. True crime, and everybody has this like obsession with the morbid and like trying to find out more about serial killers and stuff like that. And so it sort of takes that too far in the film, and it shows you this person who like almost just sort of seeks to know everything. It's kind of gross and unsettling, but you're also like curious with her, like, oh my God, what is she doing? Yeah, you should totally look it up. The actress that plays the lead role does a fantastic job of unsettling your spirit. I also watched a more campy film called Abigail that was about this like little girl that gets kidnapped, but then there's this twist that like all the kidnappers start dying and they don't know why. They're like locked in a mansion overnight. So it's this very classic horror trope of like getting locked in a mansion, murder mystery style. Yeah, it was quite good. I enjoyed the campy antics of it. And then, oh my God, I watched another scary movie and I just don't remember what it's called. Anyway, yeah, I love horror films. You can catch me in my apartment alone, like watching these horrific movies and smoking weed. That's one of my pastimes. Yeah, it's true. I really want to watch this is not a horror movie, the Wizard of Oz film from the 80s that has Fairuza Balk in it. It's called Return to Oz. After watching Wicked, now I'm all curious, like everyone else, about the more OG Wizard of Oz canons. And hell, you might even find me reading the Frank Baum, the original Wizard of Oz books. But that movie with Firuza Balk, there's like this witchy princess called Princess Mombi that like takes her heads off and replaces them with other heads. And that just feels very Wilson coded. So I think I'll be watching that soon. I want to see the whole film. Yeah. Well, okay, that's it. Let's move on to our advice segment. Thanks for listening to me ramble a little longer than usual today. Yay! All right. Let's get right into some advice for this week's episode. The first submission, starting off strong. My wife wants to eat my ass. For the past year, we've been trying new things in bed, like sex toys, for example. We're a young couple. We want to have a healthy and fun sex life, but recently she's been asking to eat my ass. I'm hairy down there, and I think I might have a small hemorrhoid, and I'm embarrassed. What do I do? I think I may have a small hemorrhoid. Thank you for being honest. Anonymous caller. I don't know, do it anyway. I think that it's good to believe people when they tell you that they like you or that they want to do something with you, and to not be overtaken by your own shame, you know? There's clearly some preparation that could go into that. This is just a PSA for anybody who's going to bend over and let anybody eat your ass. Get a bidet. Use a baby wipe. Don't be subjecting people to that unless they specifically asked you, like, okay, that's what I like. Most people don't. And so, yeah, I think hair is debatable. To be vulgar, I like it. I like it when people are hairy. But, like, if she doesn't like that, I don't know, ask. You could literally just be like, okay, like, what should I do to, like, make that enjoyable for you? That could be a pretty straightforward way to inquire about that. Maybe she doesn't even know, because it very well could be, like, an experimental thing that y'all are doing. Well, it is. So, like, I don't know if she's eaten a bunch of ass in her day, if she's an ass devourer. But, yeah, maybe she would want to start off safe, with a clean and smooth hole to feast upon. I think oftentimes men in heterosexual relationships feel emasculated by the act of doing anything but, like, fucking somebody with their dick, you know? But that's just not true. You can be a man and have somebody put their tongue up your butt. That's fine. You can even get fucked and you're still a man, you know? These things are self-identified, and pleasure is pleasure, and it's fun. And in fact, the more subversive it is, usually the more that people are all excited about it. So these old straight dudes that, like, pretend so hard that they just don't like gay people, and I would never let anybody touch my butt, they're the ones who are fantasizing about it the most, actually. Yeah, so anyway, it sounds like you have a reasonable sense about things, right? And that, yeah, maybe if you just can work on getting prepared, feeling clean, feeling attractive, then maybe it would be a fun thing. And also, if you don't enjoy it, that's fine too. You actually don't need to be, like, subservient to somebody else's desires either. I just sounds like you're open to it, but kind of a little embarrassed. So I don't know, don't be. Clean yourself up, make sure you're, like, thoroughly clean. Maybe shave if she wants you to, and let her eat your butt. Okay, next question. The next submission is from another anonymous caller. It says, what healthy habit did you replace smoking with? I realized lately I'm not addicted to nicotine. I'm actually addicted to smoking. I've been vaping and smoking weed for about 7 years, and recently I found myself smoking even though I don't get high anymore, and vaping even though I've reduced to zero nic. My addiction isn't to the substances, I think it's to the action, if that makes sense. What can I do as a replacement? I assume that you're asking this in response to me talking about having quit smoking a few episodes back. And the first thing I have to say in response to your question is, did I say I replaced it with a healthy habit? No, I sure didn't. My Grandpa Gary, he has this story about how he smoked 2 packs a day. He was always hyperbolizing everything. So it was probably like he was a pack-a-day smoker. And every time that he wanted to smoke a cigarette when he was trying to quit, he would shove peanut butter in his mouth. He kept a jar of peanut butter in his car and a spoon, and he'd shove peanut butter in his mouth to like just make it impossible to smoke a cigarette for like a few minutes. And that would usually quell his temptation. Now, I don't know that that's perfectly healthy either. I think you might, well, I don't know. Peanut butter's not terrible for you. There's a lot of protein in it. But I don't know that you need to be eating peanut butter all day long. Something that I do due to that like oral fixation that you're talking about, it's not necessarily the nicotine that I needed, which I was addicted to that. But like the really important thing for me is breathing. Actually, I realized that like smoking or vaping was one of the only times that I took slowly drawn long breaths so that I could like get high. You know what I mean? And throughout my day, I'm breathing like rapidly in this anxious pattern. And our breath is one of the most important processes that's happening in our body that we can be aware of. You know, we can't control our blood flow with our brain. We can't control the growth of our skin cells with our brain or our hair. But we can control our breath. It actually is linked both to our subconscious and conscious workings in our body. And so I think that's one of the most appealing things about going and having a cigarette is it's this calming, grounding thing that you can do. It's this repetitive motion of putting something up to your lips and smoking it, and it tastes a certain way, and it smells a certain way, and it feels a certain way, and it does a certain thing to your body that just takes you there. And so what makes you feel so unstable? You know, when do you want to smoke a cigarette so bad? Those are some helpful questions to approach yourself with, like, okay, why do I want to smoke so bad? And if you can figure out the answer, then you can probably stop. Although, in spite of ourselves, you know, we can figure out all these things on paper, but actually doing it is really the difficult part. So I don't know what would work for you. It's terrible, but I think I've sort of gone into a retrograde of biting my nails worse than I did when I was smoking, because I'm not constantly hitting a vape or something. And so I'll find myself like, oh, fuck, I'm biting my nails right now, because it's satiating that oral fixation. Eating, I think food is probably one of the most classic things that you can replace smoking with. A little snack. Oh, I can't believe I didn't say this first. Gum. Gum is the other one. I did this myself as well. And I still actually am a little bit more fond of gum now, because if I'm in class or something and I'm really just like overwhelmed in my nervous system and I need something to like stimulate me, chewing some gum does it for me. It'll get me to the next hour at least. So eat some food, chew some gum, bite your nails, suck some dick, eat some ass. Those are all things that you can do instead of putting a cigarette in your mouth. or weed or whatever. And just be nice to yourself, I guess. And on to the final advice prompt for this week. This last one says, help. My boyfriend has severe prone masturbation issues. Specifically, he's unable to maintain an erection shortly after entering my vagina. At first, we thought it was the condoms, so we took a birth control pill and stopped using them. However, he was still unable to maintain an erection or ejaculate without the condoms. We tried different positions, and I tried to help him masturbate with my hands and mouth, but he just couldn't come. My current solution is to ban him from prone masturbating, but he can still masturbate in different positions. I think maybe when he's patient enough, he can ejaculate successfully through normal intercourse. It's been a month since prone masturbation was banned, and we had sex yesterday, but he still couldn't come. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, if there's a better way to do it. Can you help? Well, I'm just going to preface and say that, darling, I don't have a perfect answer for you on this one, but I did go through something similar in a past relationship of mine. Sometimes boys have very specific ideas of what is like sexual and hard to describe. Like, dudes look at a computer and they jerk off to the same thing over and over again because it hits this like cluster of nerves in their brain, and that's like the only thing that can make them come, because they like harden their neurons around it. They're just like, okay, I watch the same video of this girl's boobs every day and I nut to it, and unless I'm thinking of that, I can't come. It's tied in with a bunch of other more complicated stuff too, like self-worth and how I don't think people allow themselves to be fully present during sex. I mean, it's something I struggle with too. But this is a problem for a lot of men. It's not been the case with everyone I've been with, and so that's why I'm allowed to to talk about it, and I feel okay sharing this. But like, I have been with a couple of distinct men that just cannot come unless they jerk themselves off, and it feels bad. I mean, there's just no way around it. When you're in a relationship with someone, it feels like you're doing something wrong, or like there's something wrong with you. And there's not anything wrong with you. And it sounds like you're being incredibly supportive, actually. It's kind of funny to ban somebody from masturbating in a certain position, because at the end of the day, people are going to do what they want. That's what being in relationships has taught me, is that people are going to do what they want at the end of the day, even if they convince themselves that they're not. So, he's probably still jerking it. I had to look up, by the way, what prone masturbation is. And for the people who don't know, it's when you like are laying down and you're rubbing your dick against the sheets of your bed or whatever. Proning, like crawling, laying down. And that's an interesting one. Maybe it has something to do with some like sexual psychology from being a teenager and like masturbating that way, and like that's just what's sort of hardwired, and he's always done that, so it's really hard to feel safe doing anything other than that. I don't know, if it's more important to stay with this person because you love them, then maybe you can figure out a way to incorporate that into your sexual intercourse. Like maybe, oh, this is a good idea. Oh, this is an advice podcast. Oh my God, you could get one of those, like, this is gross, these milking tables that they make where like a dude can lay down and put his dick through the bottom of it, and then you could like be under it, and he could be like, oh my God, I'm so smart. This could fix your relationship. So get one of the milking tables, you put his dumbass up there, and then you suck his dick from underneath it so he can like be doing that. And then everything will be great. Or maybe it won't. Maybe he's just going to keep jerking off in the bathroom without you. And if that's the case, you should break up with him and find somebody else. Yay! Thank you for listening to that very chaotic advice segment. That is going to be all for now. Let's move on. Yay! As always, if you are interested in having a submission featured on this show, you may reach out to us using the link that's provided just right in the description of this episode to our anonymous inbox. It's a Google form. You open it up and you can literally just type right in there and hit send. You don't have to enter any of your information, and it basically just sends me an email and then goes to this anonymous inbox where I have a collection of responses. So that's where I draw almost all of these prompts from. Sometimes people will send me an email to queerabbey@gmail.com. That's queerabbey@gmail.com. You can also send a picture of your big dick if you want. Just kidding. Or even leave a voicemail or a text to 503-567-2053. Any of those means of contacting me will work, and we will get right on responding to your prompt, your query, your quandary, or your question. I like to answer sexual things, mundane things, stuff about addiction, stuff about smoking weed, being a tranny, anything like that. I love drag, I love music, and I'm pretty knowledgeable about all of those things, so come at me. I'll give you some sort of nonsense answer. Maybe it'll even make you laugh. So, like I said, we're going to be sans a musical spotlight this week while I catch up a little bit on that. So this is pretty much going to take us to the end of the episode. I really appreciate you for tuning in and listening to me make silly comments about people's lives and my own life. And I hope that you have things to be grateful for right now. You know, even though it's a stupid holiday, Thanksgiving is at the very least a reminder to look around and find a little bit of gratitude. So I'm grateful for you, and I hope you have a good week. I'll see you next time on Queer Abbey. Mwah!